Welcome back to Voices of Impact, where we explore leadership beyond strategy and performance and into identity, alignment, and the kind of impact that lasts. Each episode, we bring you conversations with leaders, coaches, and changemakers who are redefining success and showing what authentic leadership really looks like. Because behind every transition and every pivot, there's often something deeper happening, a conscious redesign of how we live and lead. And today's conversation invites us into a powerful question. What if your next chapter wasn't uncertain, but intentionally designed? Right? So I'm so excited to welcome Catherine to the show for a grounded and expansive conversation on navigating life transitions with clarity, curiosity, and intention. So Catherine is a certified Designing Your Life facilitator and coach and a partner engagement community relationships manager at DYL Consulting, where she supports a global network of facilitators and partners delivering life design programs worldwide, which is awesome. So with over 30 years of global leadership experience in international education, she has led multi-site operations, launched new initiatives, and guided individuals and teams through change across cultures and organizations. But what makes her work especially powerful is that instead of seeing transitions as something like to figure out, she helps people approach them as something to design, right? Because her work isn't just about change, it's about redefining success on your own terms. Right? So embracing reinvention and creating a life that feels deeply aligned and meaningful to you. And what makes this conversation especially aligned in what we both believe is that transitions are opportunities for really intentional growth. You learn and you evolve. And clarity comes through that curiosity and not really pressure, right? So today we're exploring how to move through change with greater self-trust within ourselves and design a next chapter that feels both expansive and grounded. So welcome, Catherine. So glad to have you on the show.
Thanks a lot, Vina. Delighted to be here, and let's just discuss what's possible together. This is going to be great.
Yes, awesome. Likewise. And I love this kind of conversation, is taking control of your life and designing it. So I'd love to learn more about you and, your story. So can you share the key moments from your 30 plus years in international education that led you to focus on life design and coaching?
Back in 2016, I decided to step away from work. And I probably had a 20-year career then. My mother was living with us here in California, and she was diagnosed with Parkinson's. She decided, I want to go back to the Philippines. That's where I want to, get my care. So I left work without a plan B. I spent 6 months with my mother, which was one of the most beautiful times I spent with her. I came back and the landscape looking for work had changed. I didn't have to look for work in 20 years. So it was daunting. I didn't know how to look for work. Imagine that. The whole thing about LinkedIn and networking, it was huge. So I was spinning for a while, getting caught up in my narrative about what I should do and how am I supposed to do this. I came upon the Designing Your Life book, actually through a friend, and couldn't get through the book. And my lovely husband, who was really, really supportive, found that Designing Your Life had a workshop here in San Diego. I was hesitant to take the workshop because I thought, it's one of these workshops where you come out of it, you learn these approaches and this mindset, and life goes on. Pivotal. It was completely transformative. I came away with reframing as one of the most powerful mindsets that I worked with and I continue to work with here today, with my work. So I used that and navigated, next steps, finding work. COVID came and I was laid off after looking for getting a job. I was laid off and I decided to contact Designing Your Life. And I mentioned to them, I said, because these two facilitators where I participated in this workshop, we would stay in touch from time to time. And I knocked on their door, technically, but via email and said, I've been laid off. I love the work that you do. I would do anything to volunteer with you guys. I know you're a small team. And they said, it's really interesting that you're contacting us timely, because the woman who takes care of all our events, all our engagements, all our communications is leaving to start up her own coaching business. So it's yours. Okay.
Oh, wow.
And the rest is history. I wanted to deepen my work. I was doing all the back end stuff, but I thought, this work is so powerful. I decided to get my coaching certification. And then a few years later, get certified in facilitating workshops. So again, along the way, discovered that I loved helping people design meaningful next chapters. So that's my story. Yes.
Wow, I love this. Well, kudos to you, and thank you for sharing your story.
Sure.
And there's a lot of things I can relate. Number one, I think the Parkinson's, my grandpa had it, and that's why it's like very like, heartfelt for me. And
Hmm.
then he passed away for that. So I can relate how like that would be like a struggle. And also I was a career coach, so I know that I was in that space where I didn't have jobs. It just wasn't aligned. And then a lot of people come to me as executives saying, like, it's been 20 years later. How am I supposed to know how to network on LinkedIn? So I
Hmm.
could kind of feel that pain. So, and I'm glad that you went into this workshop. And I feel like everything is orchestrated by the divine, right? So,
Right.
like, you went to the workshop for a reason and, like, hey, this is my purpose. And they
Hmm.
gave you that opportunity. And I think that's lovely. That's just such a beautiful story. And I'm
Hmm.
so glad that you're here and that's your purpose and you're designing your life, right? And helping other
Exactly.
people do the same. I love this. So, so amazing for you. And how has your multicultural, multilingual background shaped the way you approach designing that meaningful next chapter for clients?
It's a really great question. I think both my multicultural and multilingual background have really shaped how I think about possibility. It's a common theme that I see with people who participate in our workshops or even my clients around these dysfunctional beliefs we call, the becoming aware of some of these narratives that keep us stuck or that we carry, whether it's, a cultural narrative, a societal narrative, or something family. And around these shoulds, are they still serving you? Are they yours? So once you start to unpack these narratives and start to surface them, then you start to like reframe these stories around what you should do. So
Yeah.
that's what's thinking about possibility
Yeah.
um, and designing or creating from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can relate because I'm from a Asian background, a
Yes.
South Asian background. I was just having conversations about this with everyone else that, I think the cultural thing is like you should. And I love how you said the you should part. You should do this. It has to be a traditional path. And that's what we're used to. And that's what I was used to. So I was just following the rules. But I realized when I found my purpose, I designed it my own way. It's okay to break the rules and, be the rebel and not have to do something you should and do something that you're meant to do, what you want, right?
Right.
What God has, giving you that purpose, right? And have that like serving from that place. So
So,
I love how you said going like breaking those norms and rules and you should do this and what do you want to do? What are you meant to do? What are you here to do? Why are you here to do this? So going back into that why. So
yeah,
I love how you did that reframing. Yeah.
thanks. And it takes courage.
Yeah.
In our culture, again, Asian background, if you're not a nurse, a teacher, a doctor, an engineer, and you try to explain what you're doing, I oversee operations. I'm like, what's that? Doesn't fit in our mold of what you're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
So working with that and learning along the way, it's like, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to go another route and outside of what's your should.
Yes, exactly. And everything, like, even now, like my parents are like, you should go back to corporate. It's a traditional thing. And I'm like, I'm just not meant to. And it's okay. Right. And it's fine. And sometimes we call ourselves a trailblazer. So like some people were meant to kind of be a trailblazer and take the path that's not linear.
Mhm.
And it might, like you said, it might be like completely like ups and downs and stuff, but that's how you learn, that's how you grow, and you become stronger. And that's why we're here today, right? That's the
Mhm.
whole point of us being a trailblazer as an entrepreneur. So we
Right.
want to give ourselves grace to all entrepreneurs who are listening that we need you, we see you, right? And, we celebrate you because, even though people might call us that we're different, we are, but in a very good way, right?
Mhm.
So we're actually changing the narrative of a lot of things in this world and how we lead. So, like you
Right.
said, redesigning the life, the leadership, a lot of things, right?
Mhm.
Society. Awesome. And yes, it's all about the mindset shift. That's where it all starts. And that's why we're having this conversation. So, can you walk us through, when speaking of reframing, a simple exercise or a mindset shift you use to help someone, or an example you did for a client to clarify their next possible paths if they are redesigning their life or career?
Okay. Let's start with you. I'll turn it to you. Let's
Mhm.
look at something that, you're, I don't want to say struggling with, but you're having questions about. Let's look at that. I'll turn that to you.
You put me on the spot. Let's see. I don't know. I think there were a lot of mindset shifts about. I think that what comes to me is like really about the money thing, right? I
Okay.
think I keep talking about this is
Okay.
wealth. And we talked about cultural, like work hard. And I think this is a huge mindset shift is like I'm working through is you have to work hard to earn money or earn opportunities or
Mm.
have growth or be successful for a six-figure business. Right. And I'm reframing that is that with your magnetic presence and energy, that you don't have to work so hard without overwhelm, without burnout. It's really that energy that, shines through that people would want to work with you, right? So I think these are the things that come up for me, but we'll love to hear your ways of reframing.
So we'll work with what is a problem that you want to tackle? What's important to you for right now? What are you facing? One of the things too that we talk about when we look at problems is we tend to like want to solve the problem, but we got to go one step a little bit before that. And let's identify the type of problem we want to have.
Yeah.
It's solving for the right problem, if we want to say. It's not too compounded. It's not so vague. And then we look at that problem and then like, what's this belief that's currently getting in your way? Let's just say around money. And let's look at reframing that. And then maybe we can take one step to move you closer. One of the things that we do in our workshops, we look at money making and meaning making, right? So nothing wrong with making money to get to the goals or do the things that you want to do. And also there's nothing wrong with meaning making. Maybe it could be a combination of both, that I could still make money and I could still have meaning around the work that I do. So this is one of the things that we do. I mean, in terms of identifying the type of problem, we look at the belief behind there and then start to reframe it. And then what's one small step, let's just say, that could move you closer to working with this problem?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I think when we look into like, yes, what is that one closer step and reframing as in, I know with money that there's some kind of restriction. I was having this conversation with other people. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be money, but like a lot of restrictions of the energy, right? The scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset is how I reframed my mindset around these things. And I know it's a huge money mindset. It's a really huge thing in the South Asian culture, right? And I can speak to anyone on this. And it's like when you come from a scarcity energy or mindset, it's like I need money now to pay my bills. Corporate, it's fine where you have that stability, but entrepreneurship, yes, we might not have consistent income all the time. Coming through, and how to reframe that is abundance, right? So sometimes when we think about whoever believes in the universe or God and universe are father figures. So we ask and you shall receive. So we have to surrender and let go of the how and when. And for high achieving women like us, that is very difficult to let go of control. And this is something that you have to kind of go towards. Like you have to kind of move towards that, like, hey, let's let go and just have fun. So learning how to go within and feel in your body. So that's where the feminine energy is really, really powerful, is feel into your body and look at how can I be present? And when it comes to your point of meaning, how can I serve? And that's why it's nice to have a collaboration and community and having more fun. The more fun and the high vibe and the frequency you put out there, you're more energetic. You don't need to chase after those clients or money, or I don't like need it. The universe provides. And this is literally has happened to me for the past 3 months. I cannot explain how it's that easy. Right. So these are the kind of reframes that money is an energy. It's an energetic currency. It's a frequency. So these are things that I had to learn from a lot of my mentors, and it's a reframing. And it just takes, like, to your point, Catherine, that one step on how can I have fun in my business or in my life a little bit more, right? So maybe being part of a networking group and talking to other people, being on podcasts, it's fun. We have fun conversations. Right. So this is a huge shift that's worked tremendously for me, but it takes practice. It's like a muscle.
Yeah.
So
and to add to that, Veena, you touched on something really important here is how could I still be responsible? Because financial constraints are something that we deal with here. So how could I play a little bit and balancing that with being responsible?
Exactly.
And so there's this thing around like success, our society, how we measure success. And a lot of it is around money. it's success is equal to financial worth. And again, the reframing around that, it is energy. And, when we focus on financial success equals money, it tends to keep us stuck as well.
Right.
So
Exactly. And in my case, like if you do have bills to pay, there's no inconsistent income.
Sure.
Obviously I work a part-time job, right? You can, there's so many, and when you talk about money and income, this is also another thing, now we're on the money topic. I look at it from a place of long-term. When you're building a business, you want to think about it long-term sustainability and generational wealth. And what does generational wealth mean? It's not just short-term income. It could be passive income. It could be multiple income streams. So you're building your entrepreneurial business to 6 figures. You can get a part-time job, right? And I got like 4 in the past 6 months, right? And it could be, yeah. And right now I work a part-time, and it's not even a part-time, it's actually a business partnership. And we're literally aligned. She's also an intuitive business coach. It's been very good so far. So when you believe like it is possible, like that belief in you, the universe will provide in some way.
Yes.
Right. And you have to believe that. Right. But we need to redefine and redesign what does wealth look like? What does success look like, to your point? Right. So we can't be limited in our mind all the time. So we need to be more open-minded. Like, what does money look like? It doesn't always have to be just one stream, right? It could be in different ways. So these are perfect examples of how we shift our mindsets from societal conditioning and expectations to what really works. And this is all has worked for not only me, but I'm pretty sure for Catherine and so many women that I've talked to on this podcast. So amazing. Love this. Such great examples.
Yes.
So how do life design principles enhance decision making and presence? Like, I want to go into the presence piece of it, but for senior professionals or for corporates who are listening.
Can you skip that?
Yeah. So how do life design principles enhance leadership presence for senior professionals, especially like corporate people?
Right. Good question. So, I think there's something about building self-awareness. We do a work view, life view exercise where we get clarity on what we stand for. What's the meaning of work for us and how important is that? And then, are we coherent between what we do, how we do things, and what we believe? We look at this coherency between our work view and life view. And we don't judge whether, if you're not as coherent, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just being aware. So building self-awareness. I think also design principles help navigate uncertainty. There's a lot of change going on. There's a lot of ambiguity in the workplace today. I think working with reframing and how to reframe challenges and how could we explore possibilities and come up with ideas on different solutions and what we're dealing with here at work. I think it also strengthens decision making. So instead of finding and getting stuck on one right choice, how can we as a team or senior leadership learn to generate, let's say, or test out ideas and learn from that and build our way forward as an organization. And then again, when you're present and you're coherent, people in your team feel that, it builds trust, grounded leadership, and there's an authenticity. So I find that this not only helps individuals outside of work, but senior leadership and individuals there showing up with clarity and then adaptability. So, and this intention on how they lead their teams, especially through a lot of change and ambiguity. And it takes, honest conversations with your colleagues.
Yeah, absolutely. Self-awareness is the number one. And I love how you said that. Knowing your own EQ, emotional intelligence, and how you navigate it on a personal level, it all starts from within you first, right? And it's very important. As coaches, I know we do discovery, the clarity piece, knowing your why and how you show up, not only in your career, but in your personal life, right? Because it kind of leaks through, right? So you want to see how you're showing up in all areas of your life. To your point, and this is something that I've been putting out there in my content for everyone, is really getting honest with yourself and being truthful. Like, you need to really be honest with your truth, right? Speak your truth. Sometimes, and I've seen this as a coach. A lot of corporate people tend to be like, no, I don't really need that help. Or I don't believe like that's the issue that I'm having. But it's not only being self-aware, but really accepting that you have this issue or you need the help and learning how to overcome that. So for example, for me, even now, like there are some fears that I have every weekend I go through. like journaling, like how am I showing up in my relationships or my business or my energy and the podcast, right? And understanding like how am I showing up? What do I need to do? How I need to like fix this or overcome this, right?
Mhm.
So, and how does that impact, right? So, for example, my guests, like you're also impacted the way I show up, right? It's contagious. Energy is contagious, right? So you're not only you're looking at yourself, but you're also looking at how it impacts other people. So absolutely self-awareness, and that's where authentic leadership comes from. So I feel like in corporate senior professionals, this is something that many people try to like avoid, or like, hey, I'm just buried in meetings and have some excuses, which I mean, I'm not trying to get like so much tough love here, but it is something that we need to think about, slow down and understand how we're showing up. So absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very important.
And to add to that, just wanted to add, because you're touching on like really interesting points here in terms of, leading with agency and authenticity. It's this clear on what you stand for. It's having honest, sometimes difficult conversations, and taking personal responsibility for owning your decisions, the actions, and your outcomes. Especially if you're a senior leader, for what happens here on the ground. I'll just get off a little bit topic here. I took a leadership mastery workshop at Esalen about 10 years ago with a gentleman called George Kohlreiser, and he wrote a book called Leading from the Table. And there's something he said about, you put the fish on the table. You have these honest conversations and talk about these things. Otherwise, it starts to fester and things start to rot in you. So it's, again, around having this personal responsibility and leading with agency and authenticity.
Yeah, absolutely. When you take responsibility as a leader, a corporate, for example, if you are a VP or if you're in that C-suite, you're the one who has to lead, right? And if we take responsibility for our own actions and our own shortcomings and see where our strengths lie and stuff, then we influence our team and our team sees this, right? Every single time people are like, hey, looking at me, like, how does Vina show up? How does Vina do this? Because that's what team's going to look at, right? So you want to make sure that you're modeling that for your team, right? Because they're looking up to you. Like, where would they go? Your employees. So when you model that, then it goes to your team, and your team is also like, hey, well, she's doing that. Let me take responsibility and be self-aware, and you're just kind of building it. And when they're able to do that, they'll know like, okay, this is what I need to do to get that promotion, go higher, and they're more productive, right? It's like a ripple effect.
Right.
So it all starts from the leader, and it all starts from within you.
For sure.
And that's the first step, right? So in any corporate or even as an entrepreneur, right? So just wanted to put it out there. So thank you so much for sharing. Let me see. Okay, so going into your signature frameworks in your work. So if, for example, if you can share, how do you help clients move from like overthinking and self-doubt to actionable clarity without forcing answers?
Yeah, again, so a lot of overthinking feels like, you need to have the answer. So one of the first things we do, and I've talked about it earlier, is we look at our mindset from needing to have the answers, the one right answer, needing certainty, and we'll shift that and we'll put it back. It's one of the mindsets that we use in design thinking is staying curious. How do I approach the world? What questions that I need to ask? So instead of asking, what's the right one decision, it's like, how can I explore this, or what am I curious about? And that helps to loosen the pressure. And then we go into this, which I talked about earlier. One of the most powerful mindsets is reframing, reframing a problem that we want to work with, so that from framing to reframing, so that we open up space for more possibilities and more solutions. And then once we reframe, we try a few things out. We get a few ideas on how we want to solve that problem. And then from there, we test it out, or we prototype, something that's really inexpensive and it's fast and low risk. And then you try it out, you test it out. And, if it works, great, you have information. If it doesn't work, great, you also have information to work with in terms of, okay, there's more information there. Maybe I need to go back to the process. Maybe I need to look at that problem again. Or did I empathize with myself and look at what do I really value here? What's really important? What's the problem that I really want to start to dig out. And then from there, again, taking small steps that are not, and we say set the bar really low so that it feels like you can do something about it instead of having it so daunting. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's really about going within and, like you said, curious. So keep exploring and how, like, for example, when I did career transitions, I always had coffee chats. And I tell this people for networking, when you see networking, it's not like, hey, can I just get a job or something, right? It's really about being curious about the job, the role, wherever
Yes.
you want to go, right? Even if it's like I loved how you actually volunteered and then you were curious, right? I did the exact same thing. I actually volunteered for such a long time at a South Asian startup, and I had to get out of my comfort zone. So also the next thing is really getting out of your comfort zone. And even if you volunteer, people have the stigma that I also want to reframe, that like, oh, it's volunteering, I'm not getting paid. Well, volunteering helps you grow. It
Yeah.
helps you get out of your comfort zone. You meet new people, you get new perspectives. That's how I actually grew into a really good leadership position, honestly speaking. I literally had to work on a data analyst project in the startup and volunteered with the CEO. They were all Fortune 500s, great on paper. So I was intimidated. But I was like, I'm learning from these people, right? Like that's how I actually grew into a really like a model, right? I modeled that leadership behavior. So being like really exploring and getting out of your comfort zone, like what is, like you said, one step that I can take today?
Mm-hmm.
And just be curious, and not only being curious with the people in your industry, but outside of your industry, outside of your country. Even now on these podcasts, I talk to people. I just had one conversation yesterday with someone in Madrid, someone in Australia, or in India, and I've learned so much, and it's made me super open-minded, and I learned from them. So taking that step, asking yourself questions from your lived experiences, right? From within, knowing your why, knowing your values, what you truly value, and then you get more clarity. And clarity doesn't just come from only self-reflection. To your point, you have to take action and put yourself out there.
Mm-hmm.
And also another thing I want to add is the other side of strategy when it comes to overthinking for women. I've been there, done that. This was a huge thing I had to, because we have the issue of perfectionism. Right. So sometimes we're always in our logic in our mind, which is important, but go into your body and feel. Right. So if you feel like just taking the small steps, right? So what do you feel comfortable doing? If it's just one coffee chat a week, good.
Sure.
Don't force yourself. And that's something that I've been doing lately. Just kind of take small steps, but go within your body and feel into it. When you feel it, you get more clarity, you get more answers. Like this is what my heart wants to do. I think that's what you did, Catherine, as well. Just going into the workshop of life design and coaching this, it was like, yeah, this made me gave me that spark. I lit up when I went into that workshop. So the strategy piece is really important, but it's also like really feeling into what is it that makes my why? Like, what is my why? What makes me light up? What makes me fulfilled, right? So you need both.
Yeah.
So absolutely. I love this. Yeah, without forcing anything, because sometimes when you are too much in the logic, which it has gotten me nowhere, especially, it sometimes will kind of be forced a tad bit.
Yeah.
And also to another point, I was having a conversation. I wrote a post about content creation, and it was like we have to follow what other people are saying. The validation of like I need to follow these trends, but this is also to another point that go within. Like, what is aligned to you? What do you feel like it's right for you? Not think about it, but more feel into it. So, and then the overthinking and self-doubt is automatically like, okay, I get it now, right? So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
Amazing.
want to touch on something because you're just bringing up really, again, very interesting points. So one of the things that you mentioned was like, okay, I'm reaching out and I'm broadening my network. I'm talking to people in Madrid or Australia. So one of the mindsets here that we use also in design thinking is this concept of radical collaboration. And we call it radical because you're talking to others with completely different perspectives, backgrounds, experiences, and it breaks this loop also of overthinking and maybe staying with people who think like you. Again, talking to people with different perspectives and mindsets and experiences just opens up new ways of thinking. And then, like you said, not forcing the answers. I read that post and I was going to bring that up to you today. I looked at your LinkedIn post. I said, you're doing the work. You're staying curious. You're taking small steps. You were looking at reframing. It's like, okay, this is not resonating. And I got information. So that's not viewed as, I failed, but I'm just getting information. And how could I iterate and allow clarity to develop through shifting or these other conversations? So I want to give you a shout out for that post today on LinkedIn that you put in. So
I'm so glad it resonated. And yeah, I think to my point, I think we're so like, and I love what you said about different perspective. That's how I really learned. And honestly, I was in my own little like cage. Like my family said this is what I'm supposed to do. But the more I talk to people outside of the US and how UK, my mentor, my coach right now, and I want to give a shout out to him. It changed my whole life because it was a totally different perspective. And also talking about identity energetics, like coming from a very corporate background, I was like, are you sure this works? Like, what is manifestation? But I realized when I learned all of these things and I saw people and I like applied it to my own business, my own life right now, things have shifted tremendously. I don't work hard. I'm not burnt out at all. Like you see the energy is just like, oh my God, right? And I did 36 episodes. It's because of that reason. And I learned it from people outside of the US or globally or outside of my industry. I didn't know what intuitive business coaching was. I was like, let me explore. So to your point, being curious, being open-minded, might not understand it right now, but just to be aware, like, that person mentioned something. What is it about? What is intuition, right? Leading with that. And then I was like, let me try applying it. And when I started leading with intuition and not like, oh my God, logic all the time, especially with the money thing that I mentioned, things drastically shifted for me. So I was like, I'm glad I was open-minded, I was curious. And curious is a huge thing that it's my superpower. So to everyone who's listening, I think what Catherine brought up, curiosity is a huge thing. And take it, if you are a curious person and innovative and you want to learn different perspectives, like learning and growing, that's a superpower for you and that makes you unique. So use it wisely. These are some gifts that you have. Do not worry what other people say. Some people will be like, yeah, you're boring or something. No, like it's a superpower. Thank me later. It's going to really take you far in life. Right. And I'm glad I had that. My parents did not teach me that. So I was just in my cage, right? So, and I learned a lot more than my own people, like what I've done, right? So it's very important. That's how I redesigned everything. And speaking of redesigning, I just redesigned my business in the past 3 months, right? And it's been going wonderfully. So the redesigning piece, it's never ending. And I want to say this out loud. I redesigned my career 5 times, my business 2 times, my life so many times, and I'm only 33. So I'm not saying it's going to be like linear and amazing feeling, but it's going to be very rewarding. And you're going to realize that you learned so much about yourself that you didn't even know, right? So it's a very lovely journey. So whoever is going through the transition, this episode is about, I love how Catherine said, like it's a learning, growing, reiteration of things, right? So amazing. Okay, awesome. And going into, I know I just want to go into the practical weekly. What are some daily or weekly practices other than mindset shifts? Like maybe there's energy, maybe there's breath work or meditation or something that clients can stay aligned or resilient and being more open.
Yeah, good question. There are a few simple practices that help clients stay aligned and resilient. And one of the things that we map out in our workshops and also when I work with my clients is something called energy mapping. Yeah. So it's very simple. You just notice. So we have this exercise. Look at like your past week. Okay. Look at the activities that you've done over the past week and look at maybe 3 or 4 main ones every day for the past week. Notice what drains you. Notice what energizes you. And then, are there any small adjustments that I could make? For example, maybe I have 3 back-to-back meetings and that's really draining. Could I resequence or put something in there that's energy giving, for example? Can I take a walk? Can I do breath work in between? Or do I reprioritize? Or are there activities that I'm doing that aren't serving me anymore? Exactly. Maybe I should remove something. Or maybe, Vina's got a huge project coming up in a couple of months. Do I defer and compromise? Compromise and defer. Maybe I peel off a few things. Like I think you said you took a break for a few months or a few weeks to rethink something. Let me step back a little bit.
Yeah.
Put off some of these other commitments that are taking my energy that are not helping me with what I want to do. I defer and compromise with some of these things. Do I remove people from my life or minimize people who are energy draining? So again, these practices, just paying attention to, activities that drain you or energize you is a practice that we look at. I mean, I've looked at this over the past couple of months. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm having all of these calls. Great.
Yeah.
But how could I be a little bit more strategic so that I create space to think, like reflect? So I've decided Wednesdays, no call days.
Yes.
I take my art class in the morning. That's it. Unless it's an emergency and somebody can only make it on a Wednesday, I'll consider that. And then maybe 2 or 3 calls a day where I can. So again, it's setting these boundaries for yourself or standards. I've learned that by saying no to some things means saying yes to you. And so it's how could I recoup that energy? But I have no Wednesdays. That's my creative space day, for example.
Amazing. Absolutely. I love this. And yes, and doing an energy audit every day, that's a thing for me. And just like your Wednesdays, I take Mondays off. And obviously I had to travel. So I did not do any calls the past 2 weeks, like the past 2 weeks of March. I can't tell you how happy I was because, on this podcast, it's like all the time. And not that like it actually energizes me. So that's also another thing people ask me, like, you're doing so much. Aren't you like tired or overwhelmed? I'm not, because it's aligned.
You love it.
And I look at what's aligned. There was one no-show and that drained me. And I was like, okay, I should have done a better job of the energy and feeling into it. And now it's like you said, this is the whole point of this conversation is intentional design, right? You want to be super intentional about where your energy goes. In my case, I am a huge go-getter, independent, and I had this like a little bit of ego before, like I shouldn't ask for help. And I'm realizing like that was my mistake. I have to like deal with that, right? So now I hired 3 VAs. I have 3 VAs. I have a team they're wonderful. And I delegated it, and I'm using maybe a little bit of AI in the back end piece. And I'm like, this is my zone of genius, right? To connect. So now I'm able to have these calls. It's more aligned. And also the thing that my mentor was like, hey, just get on some calls. And it's always about volume. And I was like, no, I don't think I want to do volume of calls. It's about quality for me. So who's truly aligned, right? So whether you're an entrepreneur or corporate finding a job or a role, to Catherine's point, really being intentional, like what kind of person do you want to talk to, right? Whether it's coffee chats or guests. Like I don't just have guests come on. So before this, I know we got on an alignment call. Me and Catherine, we really aligned, but I make sure that like, hey, are we really energetically aligned or not? And I say no. And to her point, boundary setting. And this was the hardest thing I had to do because being a very feminine, empathetic person, people can really put a lot on you. So having the boundary set for a woman is very, very important, not only at work, but with your family. So I tell my family, I have a call today. I have a recording. I need to be present. I can't like be sitting here and like arguing over here. So like, and you need to have that support, right? So speaking your truth, owning your power, like this is what I want to do, and setting those boundaries, right? So absolutely. Energetic work. I cannot emphasize how it's changed a lot for me in the past 3 months. Every weekend, like meditation, it doesn't even have to be like breath work, just having like a peace of mind and having that time for yourself is very important for especially women.
Right.
So I appreciate you saying that. So thank you so much. Yes, energy audits are super, super important for anyone. Awesome. So I love this conversation. What's next for you, Catherine? Any new programs? I know you're doing some workshops coming up.
Yes. So happy to announce that Designing Your Life, we will be holding a Designing Your Life workshop here in San Diego, May 30th and 31st. I think Vina will drop this in, I guess, the notes after. We are offering a 15% discount and off the workshop. We have early bird tickets, so on top of that will be a 15% discount. I don't know I'll give the information. And then it'll be Voices 2026 is the promo code. And you would go on www.designingyour.life and you can find out information about our workshop there. We also have a virtual workshop on June 12th. This is Designing Your Comeback. And we're offering a discounted workshop for people who are pivoting right now or have been recently laid off. We have early bird tickets. Again, we're offering a 15% discount off the early bird ticket. And we do have a few scholarships for those in financial need. Again, if you're interested, feel free to contact me. But go on I don't have to say that, I guess, designingyour.life, and you'll find out information about our workshops here in San Diego and the virtual one, Designing Your Comeback. And happy to support anyone who is going through their own transition and, going through their own pivot or not clear on what's next. Designing your life and life design principles is the perfect opportunity to embark on if you're going through a transition or crossroads. Want to explore.
Amazing. I love this. Thank you so much for offering these workshops. And I can promote it to my network because I'm a career coach as well. So I think they would really benefit. They're all going through career transitions. And I know some people who are laid off and unemployed. Right. So I'd love to, whoever is listening, please, take advantage of this. That's how I learn and that's how we learn. And that's why we're here today, right? So that's why we're helping everyone out. So thank you so much for that. And I'd love to do a quick wrap. So let's do a little bit of a quick rapid fire round. A place that instantly brings you peace. Could be any place. I can't hear you. There's a little bit of a background noise. Yeah, so there's a little bit of background noise. Okay, I think, yeah.
Ooh. It's a feed in the ocean or swim.
Wow, amazing. I actually, speaking of San Diego, I'm probably going to, I'm visiting the Bay Area end of April. I don't know if I'll come to San Diego, but hopefully, one day. But place that instantly brings you peace. Yes. I'm sorry, I can't hear you because of the background noise. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, okay, awesome. So ocean, yes, absolutely. If you're a person, it can always be near the oceans. That answer. Okay, so coffee or quiet moment with neither. Which one would you choose?
Coffee, any day.
We just had coffee before, so kind of you could see the energy, so absolutely. Awesome. Let's see. Something you've recently said yes to. I know we might have answered this, but something you've recently said yes to.
Yes.
Absolutely, that's why you're here. I'm so glad you said yes, right? We're vibing over here, so I'm so glad you did. Okay, so a quote or phrase you find yourself returning to.
Oh, wow, a quote or phrase. Let me turn here. We live at the edge of the miraculous. It's a poster that I have right at my desk.
Nice. I love that. Oh, that's really nice. And that's a really good quote.
Yes.
Amazing. And finish the sentence. Right now, I'm designing a life that feels
spacious, liberating, and one that is unfolding gently. It's my mantra.
Yes. That's amazing. I love that. No, that's a great answer. Liberating, spacious, and liberating is a huge thing. That liberation, feeling freedom. Yes. Yeah, so I can relate. That's actually mine as well.
Right.
I'm designing a life that feels fulfilling and alive. Right. So awesome. Catherine, this was such a grounding and expansive conversation.
Thank you.
What stands out most is a reminder that transitions don't have to be something we simply react or we can just have to get through. They can be something we intentionally design. So when we shift from that reframing, Catherine explained, from pressure to curiosity, from uncertainty to possibility, we begin to create a life that feels more aligned, more meaningful, and fully our own. And that's what me and Catherine did, right? And that's why we're here sharing that with you. So for everyone listening, if you're in a season of change or even quietly feeling called to something new, this is your invitation to pause, reflect, and begin designing what's next with intention, but also being more gentle with it as well. So as we continue building these conversations on Voices of Impact, I'm also opening the door to something bigger called Sovereign Rise Global Collective, a space for leaders globally. So if you're anywhere in the world, welcome to join. Visionaries and change makers who are ready to step into their next chapter with clarity and impact, right? So if you feel called to be either a community builder, we have a lot of fun stuff going on, like retreats and masterclasses and mastermind. So if you want to be a founding member or collaborator, or I call a founding sister or even a brother, all men are also included. I love to connect with you. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. And until next time, thank you so much, Catherine, for your wonderful presence and your energy. And until next time, keep trusting your path, stay open to possibilities, and continue designing a life that feels true to you and that you can be more of yourself. Right. So, and thank you
Great.
for being part of Voices of Impact.
Thank you for having me, Vina.